Okay, it's Roger, the voice of Mudfossil University once again, and this, I believe, are notos. There's one here and one here. You see this here? They're doing excavation here where there's a trap rock quarry here, where they take the trap rock out and they sell it all over. Now, I'm very, very familiar with this location. I live literally less than a half a mile from, I live sort of in a woods area, but about a half a mile from these locations. Now, I just went driving by the other day and I started thinking to myself, wow, I wonder what the heck, I should look at these, and sure enough, they are so, to my mind, obvious now. Now, you see this right here? I want to tell you something else about this location, and this is where the giants were discovered. The giants were discovered right over in this area over here. Now, and they're all DNA proven, there's no question about it. I mean, that's all on mudfossil.com, and I have the DNA reports on there and all that stuff. Now, you see the size of these feet? You see this here? It is written by, well, it's written now, but it was passed down by the Indians in the area, the native, inhabitants, and they told the Europeans that there was a giant that lived here. He got mad at them, he got upset, and he crushed the river here and destroyed their encampments, and the river took this course, and they could never explain that. They've tried to explain it, but the only thing that does explain it is the story by the native inhabitants. Now, like I say, I'm extremely familiar with this area. I rode my motorcycle up here. I used to take my girlfriends up here parking. I mean, it was we lived right down the road. These, I'm looking now here, they look like toes. They look exactly like toes. This looks exactly like the way the blood flows in the feet. All of the scoops and everything are identical. And if you look, we have some no-toes. They come right across like this. There's an architecture that comes out to them. They run to the back of them right like this. Just like you see. It's right here. Just like that. Now, there's other ones we have that are very eroded. Someone out in the Midwest, Tish Egerton, found some that are completely eroded. You can see all this internal structure. That one's starting to erode. This one is virtually pristine. The only thing that's missing is the pad on the bottom. You see how this is all gnarly looking? That would have been completely rounded like this. That's the way I find it, completely rounded when they're in complete tact. And they actually have like a sole on them. I just can't explain it, but this is all completely natural. This is where the fibula falls right off the side, because there is no attachment to the fibula. Anyway, all I can say is what I'm seeing. Now, that's one of them right here, and that sure looks like it. Now, look at this feature right here. This is important for you to see. See this feature? Now, let's go over and look at the other one. Here's the other one I'm saying. You see it right here? Sure, and it's right here. Boom, boom. This one here, and I live right in this area, and I know for a fact there's an extreme drop off right here between this, and it goes zoom right down here, and that I say is his foot, and I say they're doing their trap rock mining out of the front of his foot right now, and they're taking out, this stuff, the gravel. They call it basalt, I guess, whatever you call it. But they're gravel mining out of here, you see? It's all little blocks and chunks. And you know how we deal with the mud fossils. That's the, whoops, I gotta come out of the exit ground here. All right. Anyway, you can see the topography. You can see what it is. You can see this is all risen up. Nobody lives up there because it's just way up on a mountain. Now, for a mountain for Connecticut, it's a pretty big mountain. What was I going to tell you about? There's the heel is back here. We don't know what, mud fossil people know how these things work. All I can tell you, those look like 2 feet to me. And like I say, it's the weirdest thing. I live right in the block, right down the street. And here I am looking all over the world for these things, finding them all over the world. like the dragon and the fish. I'll show you that right now. Alright, you've seen my no-toe feet. Or I mean, I have a bunch of them, but this is the one that's missing the bottom. It's quite intact. And here's another one that I split open here. You see this one here? This was similar to the one I just showed you, but I chopped off the back and the front. This is where the toes were in the front. And you see this ridge line here? That's where the toes were. Exactly like this one. You see it has the exact same ridge line? Now, what happens though is in the front of them, you see how they have this round looking, sucker looking thing? And they do this. They all have this kind of attachments. Things just get sucked right up to each other. Like down here, the pad got sucked up to the bottom. You see, if you look at this carefully, and I can't hold this forever, there's these little round suckers that hold tissue chunks on. And I got them all over the place. But anyway, but you see what Tish found too. Now here's what Tish found. Tish Egerton out in Missouri. And she just went out, she saw one of my videos. Her husband said, oh, look at this. She looked at it. She said, well, let's go look in the woods. She walked out in the woods. 15 minutes later, she's got this. I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. They're no toes, but they're eroded no toes. This would have normally be totally encased, but you can see the structure of what I showed you on the no toes that are right in the, there's giant no toes. Now this one is missing them. And these are, and the skin and everything, I did a bunch of work with Tish, and very gracious. She spent a bunch of time, showed me all her stuff, and absolutely fabulous. And she's got bones, the hip bones and sacrum, and I think organs and everything, and actually tools from this same site. And I could see other things that I think she missed. I won't tell you that yet, Tish, but we could go back out there and check it all out, because I think there is more. I think it is a complete creature was there. So as long as it stays undisturbed, that's fine. And at some point it should be examined. But anyway, all of this should be examined. So just my points. So I just wanted you to see the architecture of this and started running off at the mouth. Anyway, but the other thing that I do want you to take into effect is that where I show you that quarry operation, what they're doing is they're taking this out here. This is the basalt. You see the black stuff? These have a ton of iron in them, and I think they are literally constructed, these feet, because of the things that Tish has found in her feet that absolutely blew me away. Springs, all kinds of stuff. I'll show you that real quick and then we'll get out of here. Alright, here's the fish. I believe that's the fish's eye. Comes up here, that's his fin that comes back like they have. Comes down around here, his body, that's the back fins. These are all the scales, you see it? And they overlap, and the water would run this way. I believe that's his eye up there. Now it comes back, and you can see the tail. You see the flash of the tail. Comes around. You see this architecture right here? Zoosh. There's your tail running off, and that's his fin. Now right above that, believe it or not, is a dragon. And this dragon right here is what I believe is the head of the dragon. And he is spitting something out at that fish. And let's look at what it is, because it is extremely interesting stuff. And it's very, very different than you see sitting around your backyard. You see that? That's coming out of that dragon's mouth. Alright, let's come out here. Here's his head again. Right up here. That stuff is coming right out. Now we'll go down his body. And it's hitting that fish in his fin, and I'm saying it's combusting. Go ahead. Okay, so let's go up from the where I'm saying it's down here. It's combusting. I just got interrupted for a second. Where this hits right here, it sure looks like something's happening there. It's some kind of chemical explosion. It comes down and it covers. You see it? It comes all the way out this way, this way, this way, this way, and then this, it looks like it's just combusting that thing, and it actually goes down to his back, all the way down here, and actually invades the flesh, or whatever it is of his back, and that looks like it's destroying it. And I don't know whether they were locked in mortal combat, but here is the dragon's throat. Okay, now you see the dragons, they have that fluty stuff running all down their bodies, And see that buffy looking colored stuff? Now let's look in at the dragon scales and see if we can see anything that looks like it might be a dragon scales. And this is his throat again, coming all the way from his throat. These are the kind of things that are in his throat. Now, it's very strange looking, and then let's look at the actual architecture of what I'm saying are dragon scales. Let's follow it all the way down. This again is his throat, and it goes a very, very, very long way. Now, you can see there's that fluty looking stuff that you see on the side of the dragons. And this is on his neck, neck, all the way down, neck, all the way down through this tube. And he's still got the flashy looking things and scaly looking things on his back. And let's go in and look at these dragon scales. Okay, that's the same pattern all the way down, these dragon scales in his throat. Here's the ones on this side. Same sort of thing, you see? It's not your average looking hills. Now, and they're everywhere. It's not like they just happen at one spot and then in one other spot. Every single place you go, all the way down his throat. Same. See it? I think you can understand that that's not what you see, you know. I mean, just be real for a minute. And the geologist says, oh, no, that's just average stuff. Now, let's continue on with this, all right? Because I'm talking, this thing is gigantic, enormous. And it goes down, and now we're getting into his stomach and all this gutsy looking stuff. Okay? So let's back out of it, because it's just his stomach. And let's just continue down his back and his tail and his tail and his tail all the way out. You see all this red stuff? That's the effluent of his body decaying. And this didn't happen all that long ago, because I can show you. You see this here? We're still into his body. Here's his tail. All right, now look at this. This is what I want you to take away from this. I studied the decomposition process and death very, 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 very deeply. And this is exactly what happens in the effluents that are given off in the decaying decomposition of flesh and organic matter. Specifically organic matter with transition metals, which is blood chemistry. That's why you see all these different colors. Now, you see how far this has come out of here? That thing hasn't been, it's not way out here. This is highly delineated, extremely. Watch, and that's not even much, because that's all the way down to his tail. Where it's really serious is over here. Look at this in his neck and everything. You see that? Look at this. And black and red, that is the colors of blood. The red blood is the FeO3 blood, which is the arterial supply. The venous blood is the black blood in your veins. And that's, see the black stuff here? And the black is FeO2 blood. Is the oxygen is missing, it's the deoxygenated blood. Now, that thing there hasn't even decomposed. It's not even decomposed yet. All right, that is in pretty good shape for your average dragon. So all I can tell you is what I'm seeing. And they bit the guy on his fin, and there's a Jewish, one of the old Jewish texts says that the serpent attacked the fish, the fish's fin, with power. And that fits the bill right to me. Anyway, what I'm getting at is just a crazy thing finding that foot right in my backyard. Absolutely amazing. But that's what everything's been like that since I found the giants in my backyard. So that's all I can say. I don't know what else to say. All right, this is a side of one of hers, and they have this like spring assembly. I'm almost positive is inside of here, and there's a bolt-like thing going right through here, and there is an actual wing nut up the bottom, and I'll show you that right now. Okay, if you recall, I showed you mine that had the pad on the bottom that had fallen right off. You see up in here? That looks like a wing nut to me. I don't know what you can call it. And on the side right here is one of those spring assemblies. Now she's got another one that completely came off of here, and I'll show you that one. But you see all this red stuff? That's ferrous oxide, but it's the living type of ferrous oxide, O3, blood-looking hemoglobin type of ferrous oxide. But whoops, it's really incredible. The discovery she made, absolutely phenomenal. So should be looked at. Now this, I'm telling you, this is what is inside the no-toes she has. And all I can say is it's a torsion assembly. The toes are right up in the front. Whoops, you can't see that, can you? Let me come back down here. All right. The toes hang off of the front of this. And like I said, there's like a sucker there, and the toes come off the front. Now, from behind there, you get this like torsion effect. So if this twisted up, it would sort of crush in the back here, and this would come up, and you would have the same effect as a tendon. You'd spring up and it'd spring back down. There's some kind of like antikythera looking device back here. I have no clue what's it really needs to be all. I mean, it's part of the assembly, and this is, I believe, is where the bolt went through the side. I just can't explain this until it gets studied, but it's not getting studied. Nobody's paying attention, so maybe somebody will. All right, here's the story about Hobomuck. And I'm going to say that the native stories are always considered silly little children's scary fireside myths and all this business to just scare kids. Well, guess what? They're in Middletown, Connecticut. It's exactly where the giant fossils were found. I found them myself. And the stories are here, and they abound. It's Metacomet Ridge. Metacomet was one of the Indians was here. Now, many Native American stories were in turn incorporated into regional colonial folklore. This is written in the history of this area, of Metacomet Ridge. The giant stone spirit, Hobomuck, a prominent figure in many stories, was credited with diverting the course of the Connecticut River, which I just showed you, where it suddenly swings east in Middletown, Connecticut, after several hundred miles of running due south. Hobomuck is also credited with slaying a giant human-eating beaver who lived in a great lake that existed in the Connecticut River Valley of Massachusetts. According to native beliefs, as retold by European settlers, the corpse of the beaver still remains visible as the Pocumtuck Ridge portion of the Metacomet Ridge in southern Connecticut. And King Philip was the colonist's nickname for Metacomet, chief of the Wampanoags, who was hunted down and killed on August 12, 1676. There seems to be an element of scientific truth in some of these tales. For instance, the Great Lake that the giant beaver was said to have inhabited may very well have been the post-glacial Lake Hitchcock, extant 10,000 years ago. The giant beaver may have been an actual prehistoric species of bear-sized beaver. Well, that would be tiny, but anyway. A bear-sized beaver, Casterotus oblongatus, that lived at that time. Many features of the Metacomet Ridge region still bear names of Native American origins: Bezic, Pishtog, Coggins, Matabesa, Metacomet, all these names. So, the point being is that things are not silly. These were told everywhere, and they're in every single story from every single place in the world, and they're in my backyard. I mean, how bizarre is that? How bizarre is that? I don't know what to say. It's time to take this stuff serious and have the people start thinking about this in a very serious nature, because this is not just some kind of monkey bone that's, you know, oh, wow, it had 3 teeth instead of 2. I mean, this is different. It's very different. That's all I got to say about it. If it's different for you, then you're thinking. That's all I can say.